Captain Du-1 stood at the bridge of the Starweaver, his eyes fixed on the blue planet that filled the main screen. After 20 years of exploring space, he had seen countless worlds, but something about this one felt different. The planet's blue oceans and white clouds reminded him of paintings in the old books back home. "Captain, initial scan results are ready," said Hanbin, looking up from his science station. The young science officer's fingers moved quickly across his display, bringing up streams of data. "Show me," Du-1 ordered, walking over to Hanbin's station. The screens lit up with numbers and charts, showing readings from the third planet of this yellow star. "They're still using fossil fuels, Captain," Hanbin said with a slight smile. "And their space program barely reaches their own moon. Civilization level, pre-galactic." He shook his head, already losing interest in what he saw as another primitive world. But Du-1 had learned long ago that things weren't always what they seemed. "Continue scanning. I want a full report on their atmosphere, oceans, and major population centers." Jia-Yun, their atmospheric specialist, suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, there must be something wrong with our sensors." She ran the scan again, frowning at her screen. "What is it?" Du-1 moved to her station, concerned by the worry in her voice. "The atmospheric readings. They can't be right." Jia-Yun's fingers flew over her console, running the tests again. "According to this, the oxygen levels are..." She paused, double-checking her numbers. "They're at 21%. The bridge fell silent. Hanbin walked over, his previous dismissive attitude gone. "That's impossible. Nothing can survive in that environment. It would be like living in poison." Du-1 watched the planet spin slowly on the main screen. Down there, billions of creatures were living their lives in what should be an impossible environment. His people, like most spacefaring races, lived in carefully controlled atmospheres with oxygen levels between 5% and 7%. Anything higher was considered dangerous. "Show me their cities," he ordered. The screen changed to show vast urban areas, sprawling across continents. Vehicles moved through streets, and aircraft crossed the skies. All of it happening in an atmosphere that would kill most galactic species in minutes. "Look at their activity levels," Engineer Tahoe noted from his station. "They're not just surviving. They're thriving, building, working, all in that oxygen-rich environment. These humans," Du-1 said slowly, "they evolved in these conditions." Jia-Yun nodded, still studying her readings. "Not just evolved. Their bodies actually need this level of oxygen. They've built their entire civilization in what we consider a lethal environment." Du-1 remembered all the times he'd heard other species call humans weak because of their technological level. Now he understood they'd all been missing something important. These humans weren't weak. They were breathing poison as if it were air, living in conditions that would kill most species in the galaxy. "Record everything," he ordered. "Every reading, every scan. The Galactic Council needs to see this." He looked at the blue planet again, seeing it with new eyes. "We've been measuring strength all wrong." As the Starweaver continued its orbit, gathering data, Du-1 thought about how quickly his crew had almost dismissed this world as primitive. But now they had their first real clue about humanity's true nature. These weren't just primitive beings playing with rockets and fossil fuels. These were creatures who had evolved in one of the most hostile environments his species had ever encountered. And they called it home. "Send a priority message to command," Du-1 said quietly. "Tell them we found something extraordinary." 3 days after discovering Earth, Science Officer Jia-Yun hadn't left her lab. Empty food containers littered her desk as she studied the endless stream of data about Earth's atmosphere. Her eyes were tired, but she couldn't stop. Every new piece of information made her more amazed. "You need to see this, Captain," she called as Du-1 entered the lab for his daily update. She pointed to a detailed chart on her screen. "It's not just the oxygen levels that make Earth special. The whole mixture is unlike anything in our database." Du-1 pulled up a chair, his face showing interest. "Tell me more." Their air is a mix of nitrogen, oxygen, and other gases. But here's the strange part. This combination would be deadly to 90% of all known spacefaring races. Jia-Yun pulled up another screen showing comparison data. Most species we know evolved in environments with less than 7% oxygen. Humans live in 3 times that amount. Could our readings be wrong? Do-Won asked, though he already knew the answer. Jia-Yun shook her head. We've checked 100 times. This is their normal. They need this mixture to live. She brought up videos of human cities, showing people running, playing, and working. Look at how active they are. In our atmosphere, they would suffocate. In their atmosphere, we would burn from the inside out. The door slid open, and Hanbin walked in carrying his own datapad. Captain, I finished studying their medical records. Their bodies don't just tolerate these conditions, they're built for them. Their cells actually use this high oxygen level to produce more energy than our bodies ever could. More energy? Do-Won asked. Much more, Hanbin confirmed. It explains a lot about their physical capabilities. In their gravity, which is higher than standard, they can run for hours. They call it endurance running. Most species would be exhausted in minutes. Jia-Yun pulled up more data. And that's not all. The oxygen levels in their atmosphere mean they evolved with better tissue repair, stronger immune systems, and faster healing than most species. What we consider lethal, they use to make themselves stronger. Do-Won walked to the window, looking down at the blue planet below. So when our first scouts called them weak, they were completely wrong, Jia-Yun finished. They looked at their technology and made assumptions, but they never considered what it means to evolve in these conditions. Hanbin added another chart to the display. Their sports and physical activities would be impossible for most species, even with protective gear. They regularly push their bodies to limits that would kill others. And they do it for fun. The real question, Do-Won said thoughtfully, is what else we've gotten wrong about them. Jia-Yun typed quickly on her keyboard, bringing up new data. Their historical records show they've survived massive climate changes, ice ages, and natural disasters. Their bodies can adapt to extreme temperatures that would require special equipment for most species. And their wounds heal much faster than ours. Hanbin added, what would be a serious injury for us is often a minor setback for them. They call them flesh wounds, and sometimes just wrap them in simple bandages and continue working. Do-Won sat back, taking it all in. The implications were enormous. These humans, whom many had dismissed as primitive, had evolved in conditions that would kill most advanced species instantly. Their whole planet was, by galactic standards, a death world. And they had not just survived. They had turned these deadly conditions into advantages. Update the ship's log, he ordered. Classification of Earth needs to be changed. This isn't a primitive world. This is something else entirely. He looked at the planet again, with new respect in his eyes. We need to rethink everything we thought we knew about strength. Medical Officer Yu Jin sat in her medical bay, surrounded by holographic displays of human body scans. She had been studying them for hours, and each new discovery made her more excited. When Captain Do-Won entered, she barely looked up from her work. Captain, remember how we thought humans were just simple beings? Yu Jin said, her eyes still fixed on the screens. We were so wrong. Their bodies are like nothing we've ever seen before. Do-Won pulled up a chair next to her station. Show me what you found. Yu Jin brought up a detailed scan of a human running. Look at this. Their muscles use oxygen to make energy, much like ours do. But because they evolved in such high oxygen levels, their muscles can work harder and longer than any species we know. She switched to another display showing the human heart. Their hearts are incredibly strong. They can keep beating for over 80 years in conditions that would kill most species in minutes. And look at their blood. It carries so much oxygen that they can heal from injuries that would be fatal to us. That's impressive, Do-Won admitted, but surely they have weaknesses. Yu Jin laughed softly. Of course they do. But even their weaknesses are fascinating. She pulled up more data. They need sleep every day, but they can go without it for days if they have to. They need food regularly, but their bodies can survive weeks without it. They're not the strongest or fastest species we found, but they can keep going long after others would quit. The door opened, and Engineer Tahoe walked in with new sensor readings. Captain, you need to see this. We've been monitoring their sports activities. These humans, they do things for fun that would kill most species. He showed them videos of human athletics, running marathons, swimming long distances, lifting heavy weights. They call this exercise. They deliberately stress their bodies to make them stronger. And it works. But how did they survive long enough to evolve like this? Do-Won asked. Yu Jin pulled up historical data. That's another amazing thing. Their planet went through many changes. Ice ages, hot periods, times when the oxygen levels were even higher. Instead of dying out, they adapted. Their bodies learned to handle almost anything. She showed more scans. Their lungs can filter out harmful particles. Their skin can heal from cuts and burns quickly. Their stomachs can handle foods that would poison other species. Everything about them is built to survive. Tahoe added, and they passed these traits to their children. Each generation got a little better at handling their harsh world. But the most incredible thing, Yu Jin said, pulling up one final display, is their brains. The high oxygen environment helped them develop complex thinking. They're not just strong, they're clever. They solve problems in ways we never thought of. Do-Won watched the displays, showing humans building cities, creating art, playing music, all while breathing air that would kill his own people instantly. So they're not primitive at all, he said quietly. They're just different. They took what should have been a deadly weakness and turned it into their greatest strength. Exactly, Yu Jin agreed. We thought they were weak because they weren't like us. But they're strong in ways we never imagined. They don't need protective suits or special equipment to survive their world. Their bodies are their protection. And we almost dismissed them, Tahoe added, shaking his head, because they don't have advanced space travel yet. Do-Won stood up, his decision made. Keep studying them. I want to know everything. Not just their biology, but their culture, their history, their ways of thinking. We need to understand what it means to be human. As he left the medical bay, Do-Won thought about how the galaxy would react when they learned the truth. These humans weren't just another species. They were survivors of the highest order, thriving in conditions that should have been impossible. Engineer Tahoe couldn't stop thinking about what they had learned about humans. He had an idea, but he wasn't sure if the captain would approve. Still, he had to try. He found Captain Do-Won in the ship's observation room, watching Earth through the large window. Captain, I have a suggestion, Tahoe said, holding up his datapad. We've been studying humans from far away. I think we need to test what they can really do. Do-Won turned from the window. What do you mean? I've created a simulation program, Tahoe explained, showing the captain his screen. We can use our ship's computer to test how humans would perform in different situations compared to other species we know. After studying the proposal, Do-Won nodded. Do it, but I want the whole crew to watch. An hour later, the crew gathered in the ship's main simulation room. The large screens covered the walls, ready to show their tests. Science Officer Han Bin and Medical Officer Yu Jin joined them, eager to see the results. First test, Tahoe announced, physical endurance. He started the simulation. The screen showed how different species performed in various tasks. When it came to lifting heavy things, some aliens were stronger than humans. When it came to running fast, some were quicker. But when it came to keeping going for a long time, humans were amazing. Look at this, Yu Jin pointed out. Most species have to rest after 10 minutes of hard work. Humans can keep going for hours. The next test showed survival in different environments. The crew watched in shock as the simulation showed humans living in places from freezing cold to burning hot. They can survive in temperatures that would kill most species, Han Bin said, checking the data. And they don't even need special suits most of the time. Their bodies just adapt. Now watch this, Taiho said, starting the next test. This shows how they handle injury. The simulation demonstrated how humans could keep working even when hurt. Their bodies would start healing right away, and they could ignore pain that would stop other species completely. They call it walking it off, Yu Jin explained. They just continue with their tasks, even when injured. It's incredible. But the most surprising test was yet to come. Taiho showed how humans handled stress and danger. Most species freeze or run when scared, he explained. But humans? They get stronger. Their bodies release chemicals that make them faster and tougher. They call it adrenaline. The crew watched in amazement as the simulation showed humans performing incredible feats under stress, lifting heavy objects, running faster than normal, staying awake for days. And here's the most interesting part, Taiho said, showing the final test. They do dangerous things on purpose. They climb mountains, dive in deep oceans, jump from high places. They call it sports or adventure. Captain Do-won watched all this quietly. Finally, he spoke. So what you're saying is, what I'm saying, Taiho finished, is that we've been measuring strength all wrong. We thought being advanced meant having the best technology. But these humans, they're advanced in a different way. Their bodies can do things our technology tries to copy. They're not weak, Han Bin added. They're just strong in ways we didn't understand. Change our ship's records, Do-won ordered. Mark Earth as a high-danger world, not because it's dangerous to humans, but because its inhabitants are far more capable than we thought. As the crew left the simulation room, they talked excitedly about what they had learned. They had come expecting to find a primitive species. Instead, they had found beings who could survive conditions that would kill most advanced races. The tests had proven what they were starting to suspect. Humans weren't just another species. They were something entirely different, creatures who had turned their deadly environment into their greatest advantage. Lieutenant Su-min was the youngest crew member on the Starweaver, but she had always been the best at understanding history. While others studied human biology and strength, she spent days reading Earth's historical records. What she found made her hands shake. One morning, she rushed into Captain Do-won's office without even waiting for permission. "Captain, we have to change our report to the Galactic Council," she said, her voice urgent. "There's something everyone needs to know about humans." Do-won looked up from his desk. "What did you find?" Su-min placed her data pad on his desk and started showing images. "We've been so focused on their physical abilities that we missed something important. Look at their wars." The captain watched as she showed scenes from human history. They fought in frozen wastelands during something called World War I, she explained. They fought in burning deserts, thick jungles, and on high mountains. No other species would even think of fighting in such places. "But surely other species have had wars," Do-won said. "Yes, but not like this." Su-min pulled up more data. "Most species fight only when conditions are perfect. Humans, they fight anywhere, anytime. They adapt to whatever environment they're in. And here's the scary part. They get better at it." She showed more historical records. "Look at how they learn from each experience. Other species would give up if things got too hard. Humans just find new ways to keep going." Medical Officer Yu Jin, who had been quietly listening at the door, stepped in. "She's right, Captain. Remember how we discovered they can heal quickly and ignore pain? Now imagine an army of beings who can do that." "There's more," Su-min continued. "They have something they call determination. When most species hit a wall, they stop. When humans hit a wall, they look for ways around it, over it, or through it. They simply don't give up." Do-won leaned back in his chair, thinking. "So you're saying we should be afraid of them?" No, Sumin said quickly. I'm saying we should respect them. Look at their recent history. When they're not fighting, they build amazing things. They help each other. They've started to unite their world. But, she paused, choosing her words carefully. But what? Du-One asked. But if anyone ever threatens them, they won't just fight back. They'll adapt, learn, and become stronger. Their whole history shows this pattern. Every challenge makes them better. Yu-Jin nodded. Their bodies produce chemicals under threat that make them stronger and faster. Their minds become sharper. They call it rising to the challenge. Su-Min brought up one final image, a peaceful Earth city. Right now, they're peaceful. They're exploring space slowly, carefully. But if anyone pushed them, she let the thought hang in the air. Do-One stood up and walked to his window, looking at Earth below. So what do you suggest? We need to warn the Council, Su-Min said firmly. Not about how dangerous humans are, but about how dangerous it would be to underestimate them. They're not weak. They're just different. And if anyone treats them as weak, they'll prove them wrong. Yu-Jin finished. Captain Du-One turned back to them. Update our report. Include everything you found. The Council needs to understand. Humans aren't primitive beings who got lucky. They're survivors who turned a deadly environment into their strength. As Su-Min left to write her report, she felt relieved. She had seen too many species in history make the mistake of thinking primitive meant weak. But humans were different. They had not just survived in their poison air. They had turned it into their greatest advantage. And anyone who forgot that would learn a very hard lesson about what weak really meant. The crew of the Star Weaver gathered in the ship's main meeting room. After 2 weeks of studying Earth, it was time to write their final report for the Galactic Council. Captain Du-One looked at his crew's tired but excited faces. Everyone has 20 minutes to share their most important findings, he said. Remember, we need to make the Council understand exactly what we've discovered. Science Officer Jai-Yun went first, standing next to the large screen. Let's start with their air, she said, showing charts of Earth's atmosphere. Humans breathe what would be poison to us. But that's not a weakness. It's their secret weapon. This high-oxygen environment gives them more energy than most species can even imagine. Han Bin spoke next, adding his research. Their bodies are incredible machines. They can repair damage while still moving. They can run for hours when other species would collapse. And they do all this without any special technology. It's just natural for them. Medical Officer Yu-Jin shared her medical findings. Look at their healing abilities, she said, showing videos of human recovery. What would kill most species is often just a temporary setback for humans. They have something called antibodies that fight disease. Their bones grow back stronger after breaking. Even their scars make them tougher. Engineer Taiho added his test results. Our simulations show they can survive in almost any environment on their planet. From ice to desert, from mountains to oceans. Most species need special equipment to do that. Humans just need basic protection. And sometimes not even that. Lieutenant Su-Min was last. And here's the most important part, she said seriously. They're peaceful now. But their history shows they never back down from a threat. They don't just fight. They adapt and get stronger. Every challenge makes them better. Captain Du-One nodded and started typing the final report. 2. Galactic Council. Subject: Earth Assessment. URG. Honored Council members, we must correct a serious error in how we view humans. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are something we have never seen before. Key findings: they breathe air that would kill most species. Their bodies are naturally stronger than our best enhancement technology. They can survive in conditions we thought impossible. They heal faster than any known species. They grow stronger when faced with challenges. Their determination defies standard behavior patterns. Recommendations: 1. Reclassify Earth as a high-evolution world. 2. Mark humans as an advanced physical species. 3. Begin peaceful contact only when fully prepared for. Share this information with all spacefaring races. 5. Never underestimate their capabilities. Warning: anyone thinking of threatening Earth should understand. What we see as their weaknesses are actually their strengths. They turned a poison atmosphere into an advantage. They view impossible challenges as opportunities. Final note: we came to study what we thought was a primitive species. Instead, we found beings who could teach us new ways to define strength. Humans don't need advanced technology to be powerful. Their bodies are their technology, and their determination is their greatest weapon. Respectfully, Captain Do-1. Survey Ship Starweaver. As Do-1 finished the report, he looked at his crew. Did we miss anything important? They all shook their heads. The report was clear, simple, and direct. It would make the Council understand that they had almost made a huge mistake in judging humans by their technology alone. Send it, Do-1 ordered. Priority transmission. As the report beamed across space to the Galactic Council, the crew watched Earth through their windows. Down there, billions of humans went about their lives, breathing their poison air, surviving their harsh world, and growing stronger every day. They had no idea they had just been reclassified from primitive to extraordinary. 1 month after the Starweaver's report, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from 500 space-traveling species gathered in the Great Hall. The room buzzed with worried whispers as they read copies of the Earth report. High Council leader Ray-In stood at the center platform. She had read the report 20 times, and each reading made her more amazed. Fellow council members, she began, her voice carrying across the quiet hall. We nearly made a terrible mistake. We almost dismissed humans as weak, simply because they hadn't reached the stars yet. She pressed a button, showing Earth on the giant screen behind her. Look at this world. We used to call it a death world because of its high oxygen levels. But it's not a death world. It's a strength world. It created beings who can do things we thought impossible. The room stayed silent as she continued. Captain Do-1's crew has shown us something important. True strength isn't just about technology. It's about adaptation. And humans, she paused, looking around the room. Humans are the masters of adaptation. Science advisor Min-Ki stepped forward with new data. We've confirmed everything in the Starweaver's report. Humans don't just survive in their poison air. They thrive in it. Their bodies can do things our best machines can't copy. But surely they're still primitive. One council member asked. Primitive? Min-Ki laughed softly. They built cities in frozen wastelands. They crossed oceans when they could barely make boats. They climb mountains for fun. They push their limits just to see how far they can go. Does that sound primitive to you? Ray-In showed more images from Earth. Look at their sports, their contests. They deliberately make things harder for themselves just to prove they can do it. They don't need technology to be strong. They are strong. The council watched videos of human activities. Marathon runners, mountain climbers, deep-sea divers. They saw humans working in conditions that would kill most species. They saw humans recovering from injuries that should have been fatal. So what do we do? Another council member asked. Ray-In's answer was firm. First, we create a new classification. From now on, Earth is a high-evolution world. Humans are classified as an extraordinary resilient species. Second, we share this information with everyone. No one should make the mistake of thinking humans are weak. Min-Ki added, and when they finally reach the stars, because they will, we welcome them as equals, not because of their technology, but because of what they are. The council voted unanimously to accept the new classifications. As the meeting ended, Ray-In looked at Earth's image one last time. You know what's most interesting? She said to Min-Ki. They probably don't even realize how special they are. To them, breathing poison air and surviving impossible conditions is just normal. That's what makes them truly remarkable, Min-Ki replied. They don't think they're doing anything special. They just keep pushing forward, keep adapting, keep getting stronger. In the days that followed, the Council's decision spread across the galaxy. Species that had once looked down on Earth now looked at it with new respect. They realize that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in having the best weapons or the fastest ships. Sometimes, the greatest strength is in being able to breathe poison as if it were air, to treat the impossible as simply another challenge, and to never, ever give up. Back on Earth, humans went about their daily lives, unaware that they had just been reclassified from weak to extraordinary. They continued breathing their oxygen-rich air, pushing their limits, and proving that true strength comes in many forms. And somewhere in space, Captain Do-1 and his crew watched their report change how the galaxy saw humans. They had come looking for a primitive species. Instead, they had found something much more valuable. A lesson about what it truly means to be strong. The end.